Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Talking Skritt, a podcast brought to you by Gamebreaker Nation. I'm your host, John, aka Deo, and we have a fantastic show for you today. PAX South, their announcement a couple hours ago, just finished, and we have been analyzing over this since it has ended. So, to help me tell you all the great things that we've found, and hopefully the people in chat can add to it. First up, I would like to introduce James Carr.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Really excited to get talking about this, and we're probably going to run a little late today.
Yeah, this is probably going to be slightly more extended. We're already, I think, well, to introduce the next person from Gamebreaker Nation as well, Aaron Heath.
Am I next? I thought Roy was next. I wasn't ready. Dude, I was still preparing my statement.
Well, that's your statement now.
Yay.
He was definitely the one watching that trailer, watching that whole thing was like, we can't do this in an hour and a half, so.
That was me. This is true.
And last but not least, we have Roy.
Hello. We are going to have a very long show today. Been a very long day since we got
I'm going to put you on the spot. Spot. I mean, you saw this. Are you excited for this or the continuation of Elite Dangerous? I'm teaming against your nostalgia.
Oh, God.
Could it crack the nostalgia?
Yeah, I'll be back. I'm definitely coming back. I want to see this. How long I'll stay is going to be how good it's going to be. But yeah,
ArenaNet. You gotta keep Roy here.
I'll definitely spend a little more time in the Guild Wars universe after a considerable time after they release it.
All right, let's jump right in with basically the whole show is going to revolve around what they announced and what we analyzed from it at the PAX South panel, which, like I said, just concluded earlier today. First things first. Dogs will bark. The PvE section of it. Does someone want to take that real quick?
To just go straight off, let's just start off with where we're going into the Maguma jungle. I'm really happy about this, especially when they announced the scope of the area, that we've got the canopy, the floor, and then, like, I'm assuming some form of cavern system through the roots. That's just, to me, probably one of the best ideas. The fact that they're actually opening up the whole jungle as the explorable area is probably the best idea that I think I like about the new zone.
Yeah, the biggest question on my mind is how much of the jungle are we going to get? So presumably we're going to get the whole thing. But if we're pushing west into Maguma, I mean, we are in the Silver Waste right now, which is the Maguma Waste, not the Maguma jungle proper. So I'm really wondering if they're going to unlock the entirety of the waste and the jungle. And on top of that, if they're going to unlock possibly more of the map that they just didn't announce. That's something I'd love to see, because the Maguma is a big area, but I don't think it's an expansion-worthy big area. Like, I think they need to unlock more of the map besides that. That's just me as an explorer. Exploration is like my favorite part of the game.
And I mean, they definitely broke it up into three sections of the Maguma. They had the core, roots, and canopy, which they said was the canopy was where the pack got scattered. Correct?
Well, with the roots and the canopy and the floor, I'm assuming that's just the verticality levels of each explorable map. I mean, that's pretty much what that's going to be, right?
Yeah, I hope not that, but I think that's how they were kind of breaking it down originally.
Because I'm assuming we've got the Magus Falls area and the rest and the far reaches of the Maguma Waste. That's really the only marked areas on the map right now that we have to go into Maguma. We have a lot farther north, but who knows how far north they're going to go with the expansion, since the whole trailer was all about the jungle and it didn't really show much waste footage except at the very beginning.
Well, one of the things that I'm thinking about is the fact that if we're talking about, you know, the three levels of the jungle, every zone on the map could very well have 3 maps in that zone because you've got the 3 different levels to it. So the actual like footprint doesn't necessarily have to be huge if we're getting technically 3 times the map per zone.
Yeah, and someone's making a good point in chat that, you know, Maguma also extends north. Like, yeah, it does cover a big area. I'm definitely not expecting 1 zone out of this. Like, that's just vertical.
Yeah, no, we're definitely getting more than 1 zone. It's just, you know, I'm an explorer at heart, so I would love to see like 10 zones, but I don't think they can fit that many into the area they proposed. Was that right?
I said I just want to see how far north they're going to take it, because if they can go all the way up to the Isles of Janther with it, haha, let's have a laugh. But if they take it that far, that would be really interesting. But the fact that they've given us basically 1 map with 3 maps built into it for each map that's in the jungle, that's a lot of content. And if you remember Guild Wars 1, they had that kind of a feel to it anyways, because a lot of times you were going down, you know, the actual Maguma mission, you're going up, down, round, and round to get through that. So there's a lot of verticality even in Guild Wars 1. So, you know, this is really good to hear. It shouldn't be that big of a surprise, even though it seems to be for everybody. I mean, I was kind of caught off guard the fact they were going to do so much verticality with it.
Well, yeah, because they've already projected a lot of verticality with Silver Wastes and Dry Top, especially Dry Top. So it's not a big surprise that they're taking it a step further and giving us 3 different levels, kind of an underground, a main level, and a canopy level. I'm excited to see how far they take it with, like, maybe tree climbing, or as we saw in the trailer, hang gliding, which we'll get into later. But I'd love to see how we're going to interact with the environment in terms of traversing it. That's
well, obviously they couldn't keep going. They couldn't keep going the crystal route. You know, I mean that was starting to peter out as we move through the maps now. So, if they're going to keep the verticality, they were going to have to give us some way to get around.
And they have reintroduced the vine bridges to the game already with the one in Dry Top. There's 2 of them actually, but
well,
they could definitely bring those back into. They could definitely bring those back into play in terms of traversing the environment.
You guys are definitely hitting upon it. Like what, like even with the environment and also like what kind of creatures we saw, like little bits of it, but like environment creatures. What do you guys want to see? Like they told us about gliders. We're speculating possibly about the vine bridges, other things. Like, how do you want us to traverse mostly in the game?
Well, there's like 50 dragons in this trailer, first of all, so that was the thing. But as far as creatures, like you said, I'd love to see more of the dinosaurs. We saw kind of a clip of that one that's rolling, and then it kind of comes out and do a little kind of a raptor-looking thing. I'd love to see more dinosaurs like that, because we had a lot of dinosaurs in that area in Eye of the North.
I want one of those pet on my Ranger.
Actually, no. The dinosaurs were down in the coast. They weren't in Maguma. Maguma was all centaurs.
Yeah, they could I mean, the dinosaurs could definitely spread into the Maguma jungle, though, and it looked like we were getting more dinosaur-y like foes in the trailer. So I'd like to see.
Well, the other thing I seem to have, I'm curious of, is where they're bringing all the ideas of buildings and hidden secrets of the Maguma, because we pretty much extensively ran that in Guild Wars 1. There wasn't that much there. It's, you know, it was a jungle
that you got to see.
There wasn't a lot of buildings and stuff. So that's one of the things I'm curious as to where they're going to put that, so it makes sense lore-wise.
But the thing that I don't want to deal with the bugs. I saw the bugs in that one bit in the when they were talking about the specializations. I don't like dealing with giant bugs.
Which, if you played Guild Wars 1, the moss scarabs in the Maguma jungle, the struggle is real.
Yeah.
The moss scarabs were insanity.
Yeah.
These things would pop up at you every other step you took in mobs of like 8 to 10. It was just awful. I hope they dial it back with the insect life for sure. There were spiders also.
I mean, you don't want like day one risen, like how it was in Ore?
God.
Where it's just like
please no.
Loads of mobs. I mean, come on. It's a living, breathing world. We're going towards their front line, or their territory.
It should be, like going in the front lines of Zaitan the first 4 or 5 weeks that we were here. You couldn't walk in that area without, having to fight.
Is that how long it took before they cut back the number of undead? Was it after like the first month or so?
6 weeks before they actually went, we got, they started cutting it back. I don't know if that was lore wise, things were starting to get killed and people were moving into the area and they decided lore wise to do it, or if it was just like, yeah, this is just slowing people down way too much. It's one of those we never knew, but it took about 5 weeks. Month and a half or so, and then it was like, okay, we can actually walk and breathe. And I've got some old screenshots from back then, and some of the, one was just a straight walkway, and there was like 15 different things in it, and 3 of them were veterans. And it was between one door. It was, you could look down the road and see the door. So yeah, it was. I hope they do the same thing at least at the start. Just fill it and make it feel like it's something huge.
Well, and it seems like we're dancing around it, like with all the different systems, and we're definitely going to get into them. The one thing I do want to make clear is at the very beginning how they literally said no new races, no new level cap, no new tier. Like, how do you guys feel about that? I know some people in the community have been clamoring for that, and I definitely want to know how chat feels.
So,
you want to launch your sad face, Aaron?
Well, first of all, when he announced that, he came right out and said, no gear treadmills and no level cap, and I was just ecstatic. Like, when he said that, I knew no matter what else, like what other content they announced, that I was going to be happy because they're not introducing stupid mechanics like gear treadmills and level cap increases. They didn't announce a new race, which it is fair because a new race doesn't fit in the story right now, story-wise. A lot of people have mentioned that, and it's true that you can't really squeeze a new race into the story right now. So even though that's the case, I'm still sad there's not a new race because I've wanted a new race for so long. And even, I don't care what the excuse is. Give me the stupidest excuse in the book. I'll still be happy that there's a new race. So a little bit of sad face at that, but overall, super happy.
You just wanted a new shiny.
Yeah, I wanted to be a Skritt thief.
We all want new shinies. I mean, really.
That's it. My thing was I really was expecting a race. I was not expecting a profession. So being that was the trade-off, it appears, I'm good with it. If they wanted to bring in a profession, we'll get into the reality of the profession itself. But that was I guess that's a fair trade-off. I was hoping they'd open more of the maps up in different areas rather than just keep heading west. And ultimately, like we were talking earlier, I understand there's a push for profits, a push for money. It's a business, business operation. What I find interesting is none of this that they're pushing out needs to be in a paid box. They could have done every single part of this through the story and downloads. So, just as people are like, oh, where's all the people that said they weren't never going to do a package, an update, a package box, whatever. I don't see, they made a decision to do this, whether it was their decision or NCSoft's, neither here nor there. But the thing is, they could have done this completely through a living story and through seasons. So, that's my takeaway or my statement on that. It's they need money or they want to increase their profits, so be it. They'll sell a box.
Yeah, I mean, I think I stand I unfortunately didn't see the Guild Wars 2 way of an expansion. I was more looking for of how they were going to distribute it, and a lot of people I think are saying in chat, it's definitely on their frequently asked questions section of their new site, is it's a paid thing. But I was hoping to see maybe they're going to combine it with the bundle with the original game, and you can no longer get the original game. That way it's more like Guild Wars 1 where it was it's kind of a new campaign. You don't need a previous thing technically. But I mean, I hope they expand upon that in the coming months about how they're perfectly distributing it, like all the details. And I mean, let's go into like the first thing they start talking about, the mastery system. Basically, this is their way of continue progression for your character without it being a vertical progression. Like we were saying, no new gear tiers, no new level increase. Basically, this system allows you to kind of hone in on certain skills. Like they use it, for example, easier to traverse the terrain with these hand gliders, discover secrets with language for lore people, and also skills to help battle enemies. And I believe they said it was used to, or you could acquire through like parts of the story, achievements, challenges, and it made it sound like they made it account bound.
Yes, he specifically said account bound.
I'm wondering how you guys are feeling about that.
Account bound. Fantastic.
I'm good with it being account bound.
But I mean,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the system overall. He explained what it's going to do, like that it's going to help us be able to better traverse the environment and battle enemies. But it's still murky, obviously, because they have this whole time period to give us information, and they're definitely saving a lot of it. Mm-hmm. So we still have a very limited understanding of how this system's going to work. Basically, you earn things, and it gives you stuff. That's all we know right now.
I was thinking a bit about it, and since they said that the whole hang glider thing is going to be part of the mastery system, in my head, I was trying to think of like different game systems and how this could be made to work. And if the hang gliding is going to be such a big deal about traversing the new Maguma maps, it's probably going to be like a tree system, and it starts off with hang glider as being the entry point. Like you can't not have the hang glider because it kind of, like they said, is a big deal getting around. So you can't be denied your primary means of moving around just through simple choice. It's a poor design, I guess. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, that was definitely one concern was, is this going to be an activatable skill like you put it on your skill bar? Or is it a button like, oh, now that you have hang gliding, you can hit B and it automatically deploys the hang gliding? Like, because I'm worried if it's going to take a skill slot, aren't you running around with one less skill?
Yeah, that worries me as well, that they might be limiting our skill arsenal. I'm also wondering if it's going to be a prompted thing, like some point near a cliff, after you've jumped off, you hit, there's a prompt for hit F to hang glide, which they do the hit F to blank a lot. I'm also worried about that with the learning the languages that you mentioned. He made a big spiel about it being more lore inclusive because players could use the mastery system to better learn the languages of the ancient civilizations of the Maguma jungle, of which we really know nothing about. Like, there's been some mysterious ruins in Guild Wars 1, but other than that, we have no clue about these civilizations. So, but as far as learning the languages goes, apart from like a dinky mini game maybe, all I can see that being is like, you've earned the requisite amount of points to hit F and decipher so-and-so message that you could just go look up on the wiki anyway. So I don't know how relevant that system's going to be.
Yeah, and like you were starting to talk about the language system, we were talking about it earlier. That's one thing I'm worried about. As soon as he was like, "Oh, use the language system," and I was like, or spec into hang gliding and look up the language system on the internet, because they said you could explore with it, but what's going to be the check there? Is it going to be a dialogue box where it's just like you go on the website and it's just like click option 1, 3, 1, 1, 2, 1, and you're in? Or is it really going to check to see if you truly are this, linguistic master,
Well, I'm assuming
one concern.
Yeah, I'm assuming since this is their what they're putting in this expansion for character progression as a whole, that this is going all these areas in the mastery system like language and hang gliding and combat and exploration, whatever else it may include, these are all things you can eventually max out completely. Like, you don't have to choose one. Presumably, you'd be able to eventually get all of these maxed out.
And had a good question or a good point, and that was how this was going to be able to, and we talked about this, how this was going to be able to be account bound. Are we going to have shiftable points so that every character is going to have a way to be different, or are we just going to max, everybody, you max these out and everybody gets the same set of skills? And
yeah,
I was thinking they would do a skill point thing, but you guys made a decent argument for the other.
Yeah, that brings up another point in that just MMOs in general, actually, not just Guild Wars 2. A lot of times patches include just piling on system after system after system that players now have to navigate through, and it kind of grates on me because it just makes the game more complicated with every update. It's like, oh, now you have this system that you have to sift through and organize and keep track of, and it feels overwhelming sometimes, especially to new players who might be trying to get a grip on the game.
I kind of hope, and I agree with Deo, that there is a definite issue in, we all have access to the internet, clearly, if we're playing this game. Just being able to go to Delphi and be like, yeah, option 3211322. And, hey, here's your achievement points. You don't know what you just puzzled out because you don't speak, I don't know, ancient Hylic or what have you. But I hope that it says you can't understand this, and it has the little X option to close the prompt. And I'm also hoping that it's a little more in-depth than something similar to, you just are deciphering runes on a wall. I'm hoping for something like there are actually living settlements of these races that you're finding, and that they're maybe even outright hostile to you until you can speak to them. I think it's called a meat wall as a deterrent in gaming, is when something is just there that will kill you if you get close to it, until you have the proper thing to get past it, or can just fight your way through. But I'm hoping, you learn languages to have access to different traders for different material, for access to even jumping puzzles or mini dungeons. And then even then, I'm perfectly okay with the reading runes on a wall to decipher a puzzle or some such. But I'm hoping that they have the more fleshed out ideas there.
I'm just hoping that it doesn't turn out to be grinding for rep, because that's kind of what you were getting at a little bit there, is like, oh, I need this level of language mastery to talk to these people. It's the same kind of context as grinding for reputation points in other games. I hope it's a bit more complex than that, and I'm sure you do too. But I'd love to see, what you were saying, of certain things attached to these mastery tiers, like maybe you need to have accomplished a certain mastery-related achievement to be able to do this new dungeon that's attached to this civilization, or something of the like. That would be awesome.
And, I mean, going with that whole idea of this horizontal progression, they have also added the idea of specializations. And they revealed one and showed us a little bit of it. They hinted at one, and then a lot of people, I think, are picking apart, as we did, the trailer to see if there were any more. But basically, with specializations, from what we are understanding how it's going to work, is you can basically pick this one route and get it says right now only one new weapon for that particular specialization, and you get a whole new set of skills, and I believe they said utilities, elites, that are specific to that one. And as you can see the picture, that one is of the druid, which is the specialization for the ranger, and it looks like they're giving them a staff. How do you guys feel about the specialization system in general?
I hope that it's like you said, as of right now, we're only aware that each profession will get one specialization, but there's nothing to say that they couldn't have multiple specializations per profession. And I would almost say that this is extremely likely, because in order for you to be specializing in something, there needs to be first options in which for you to specialize. So I hope there's multiple specializations available, and I also hope that you can earn all of these specializations and simply be able to swap between them at different times. Whether this is going to be something we're able to do on the fly or something we'll have to be in a city to do or something like that, I don't know. But I'd almost prefer that it be limited so that it doesn't turn out to be overpowered.
And Chad's definitely saying, like, they made it sound like there's going to be more than one, and we've been arguing about this, since it's gone off air, was, it sounds like it, but when you look at the site, it could just be, yes, eventually, like, the specialization system will be this, but for right now, we're giving you the system and this one with each of them. But like I said, that's unconfirmed either way, and we definitely could see it going both ways with the wording on the site.
Yeah,
but I think the majority of us do want at least more than one option, because you're not specializing in something if everybody goes to it.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you guys...
The other issue, I like the idea of specialization, but I don't want to have an option to change it. Once you make a decision, they have to make it somehow costly to switch specializations. So let's say there's 3 specializations and it's all run by points, and there's, just like the skill traits are 5 points, and you've specialized all the way through. Well, I don't want to be able to walk out and then just switch those 5 points into another specialty. That doesn't mean specialization. That just means I'm a generalist who can change my specialty anytime I want. So, make it, if they're gonna make it so it's changeable, make it so it hurts enough that you're not going to want to change it unless you really, really want to. You got to go to a specialty changer for 10 gold or something and change it out. I mean, seriously, make it something. It's a decision you should be making with some eye towards permanence. If you're specializing as a doctor, you're not gonna go from a pediatrician to a brain surgeon just because you wanted to change your specialization. And in this situation, I kind of feel that's kind of the same way.
But no one was looking for pediatrician in the group. I needed to go to that one.
Well, I'm gonna have to be right on the other side of the fence from you on that one, Roy. Is having something that is difficult and or costly to change at this point is kind of directly against everything they just did to revamp the trait system. So it's basically that they went from you just get the traits and then you have to spend X amount of gold, silver, what have you, I don't remember what it was, and you refund it to get those traits back and respend them, but you had all the traits in the first place. Now, if you create a new character after the feature pack from last September, you have to go earn those traits. You have to go collect them. So, if you're earning the specialization going by the rest of their character-based system, if you go out and you earn the specialization, the way it's set up, you should be able to switch to that specialization because you earned it. Also, they've kind of set up the system so you don't have to have, 3 different rangers on your account because you want to play a ranger 3 different ways, and you don't want to have to spend constantly to revamp one single character. And on top of that, I do agree that, the whole specialization thing has to be give and take. Like, to hop to a different topic here, with the druid ranger getting a staff, I want to see them locked out of something from a base ranger. I want to see a reason why someone would want to stay a ranger versus specializing in druid or whatever other options they might get. So,
I mean, go ahead.
I was going to say the other risk with this, I can agree to disagree on that. We'll not know until it actually comes through. The other risk they have with this is really kind of playing with the metagame, and particularly in PvP and World versus World, is they've got to be careful of the balance with these specializations, because if this becomes imbalanced in some way, they're gonna fight and fight and fight trying to fix it. That's why I can't see how they can go. Specializations, 3, 4, 5, 6 different specializations, keeping all of those in check for all of the different professions. They're getting back into that position where they were with the dual professions and trying to keep everything balanced that way. So that's another issue that they've got to watch, and it'll be interesting to see how things change along those lines.
Well, the bright side, comparably speaking, you are considerably more skill locked in Guild Wars 2, considering your 1 through 5 are weapon skills, your 6 is a heal, 7, 8, 9 are the various utilities, and then 10 is the elite. So, as far as we can tell, you get 1 additional weapon. I'm going to assume 1 per specialization, and that's a big assumption. But if it goes with like my lockout theory, say you lose another weapon based on what you just did, so there's at least that. And they said what you get a new heal skill, a new elite skill. So
and utilities, I believe. I think you get like a whole new
subset of skills available.
Yeah.
So I agree. There's a balance issue, but it's probably not. I'm going to say nowhere near the issue that Guild Wars 1 had with the straight up multi-class dual classing system as of yet. If they get up there with 5, 6, 7, 8 specializations for a given profession, then we're going to get into problems. But yeah.
But I mean, what they have just showed us is with the video was a ranger, and then Colin Johansson did tease us and show or tell us about we have seen a lot of necros with great swords. So he's now hinting at we're going to get necros with a great sword. What do you guys feel about that? Do you like it? What kind of skills do you think are going to be involved?
Ever since I started seeing, I saw that happen with Marjorie, and I'm like, first Traherne, now Marjorie. I want a greatsword on my necro. Please, Dave, thanks.
Mm-hmm. I'm on the same side of the fence. First of all, I'm on the same side of the fence as Jim is with the whole switching between specializations thing. I think as long as it's something that's fairly difficult to earn and you have to really work for it, once you earn each specialization, you should be able to swap between them no trouble. But as far as the necros with greatswords, that sounds great. We also saw the potential engineer with a hammer and the potential mesmer with a shield in the trailer. Those are both great. I just want more. Just give me more weapons for professions, please.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Chad is definitely beating us to it. Like we have in the list, the engineer with the hammer, because you can definitely see drones next to it. Do you think those are specific to maybe the hammer? Like, maybe it's more of a summoning.
I'm hoping they add more base skills, and it's not just in the specializations. But even so, the idea of drone turrets it's fantastic. And if the specialization for an engineer, if one of the specializations is going to involve melee combat, being able to bring the turrets with you, I think is a fantastic idea. Yeah. Because it definitely, like with the engineer, with your turrets, you're setting up zone defense. But if you're going to be chasing after the enemy, your zone defense means next to nothing. Yeah. So
it's a little more like the ritualist after they added spirit spamming and spirit movement, where you can make let spirits follow you, so you could actually move on the field and change your zone defense, but you could also move things and still not be tied to a spot. So yeah, I kind of like the idea. I play an engineer on occasion and didn't like playing turrets because I felt like I was rooted to the spot trying to pull people to me.
Though I do like that helmet. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think Jim mentioned this earlier. When we were first analyzing the trailer, he thought that was like at a glance it looks like the Sorrow's Embrace helmet, but it's actually a brand new helmet skin that we haven't seen before. And with the engineer and the hammer potential, that really makes a lot of sense as far as the whole specialization systems go. Because let's say as an engineer, you specialize now as a builder. I mean, builder, that's kind of a lame word. They'll probably think of a cooler one for it. And so you can now wield a hammer, which you can use to build, these drone turrets. What if the drone turrets are actually the weapon skills, and you can still have your other turrets on your utility? And you could have like 8, 10 turrets. That would be amazing.
Well, and they also show the mesmer with the shield, which definitely does have an interesting skill on it that looks like it slows down a field. I mean, if you couple that with supposedly time warp, you could really... I don't know if it just slows them and like maybe slows their attacks. It just really showed them moving slower. But if it slows their attacks,
Chronomancer confirmed.
Yeah, I was going to say, that can really turn the tides. But I think people are saying in chat, what other ones do we want to see? And we do know that people are speculating that in the one scene there are 3 people wandering around, and one looks like a thief with a rifle.
I thought it just looked like an engineer myself.
But I was going to say, we have to keep in mind that while it looks thief-like, it's still medium armor on a medium profession, and we have, like you said, an engineer that can do a rifle. So, yeah, I can't guarantee anything with that one, but...
Yeah, like I said at the pre-show, it's trench coat syndrome for medium armor.
Yeah, but I do see that as a really big contender for a thief. I mean,
definitely.
With what weapons they have left. I mean, what do you guys?
I'd love to see a rifle on thief with like 1500 base range, and it'd be like a sniper specialization. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
I'd also like to see offhand sword for thief. That'd be cool.
And also, like, people are asking, like, what about an elementalist and guardian? Like, what ones do you want to see for those?
Well, I know you, Deo, wanted a longbow on your guardian.
I just want a ranged weapon for the guardian that does some kind of distance.
You don't like your scepter?
I do, but then the ball goes.
They sped that ball up.
That was me doing it sped up before people could outrun it.
I was going to say, a sword for an Ellie or a bow for an Ellie would be nice. I mean, we've already got hammers. We've already got, I'm trying to think what the other. We do have a sword with the fire sword, so fire great sword. So yeah, I mean, either a smaller sword or, like I said, some kind of a bow would be kind of nice to see.
If they're going to add, my main character is my elementalist, and I love dual dagger. And I would really like another melee weapon, so I would be all over. Even if I just get sword in main hand, I would be happy to see the abilities that come off of that. But
for Guardian, axes make a lot of sense. They're a main hand martial weapon that would be used by a knight-like character, heavy armor. So I think axe would make a lot of sense, both for main hand and offhand. Why not offhand? I mean, Guardian, offhand sword, why not?
I mean, while I would like to see it for a Guardian, Guardians, and I think they've talked about this in the past, were more cleric-like with a little bit of knight, which kind of gave the sword and then like the mace and shield.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go D&D cleric, they shouldn't even be able to wield swords. So if they can wield swords, they should be able to wield axes.
Well, but like I'm saying, they combine like a knight, which knights don't really wield that many axes. I mean, it's more sword.
Well, I mean,
as a defensive weapon, an axe you can use it to, like with the hook on the blade, you'd use it to grab and parry and disarm people. So it's a possibility. So
Guardians don't need to be any more defensive.
Dude, I want to do shield. I want to do a wield shields. That's all I want.
This stuff.
Actually, that would be interesting. But I know why you want to go shield.
I just want shield. That's all I want.
He just wants to dual wield his legendary. That's all.
I do. That is something I wish to do.
In chat, Beach Gaming Live was saying hammer for Ellie. We've already got a hammer for Ellie with the conjured hammer. So I'm thinking that's why I was leaning towards swords. Because Ellie's, we've got so many conjured weapons, and we've got access to so many of the other weapons that I would really like to see just a regular sword.
Oh, sorry. When we were talking about specializations, now that you're saying that, please, ArenaNet, an elementalist specialization where we're summoners. We can summon them for longer. We can use, because I love using the hammer because it looks cool.
It's an interesting.
We'll get you Mjolnir, Deo.
One thing I'm kind of curious on is Warrior can already use so many weapon types. I'm wondering what they would add to it in a specialization. I would imagine Staff as a melee weapon would be an easy one to do for Warrior. I don't know what that specialization type would be.
Well, it's interesting. It seems like that might be in the game, but... Oh, go ahead. Bare hand fighting.
Boxing people.
Yeah, a warrior set up with just
brawl.
Just brawl and walks up and punches somebody, knocks them down. It's all about condition of application and control.
Well, I mean, there is one more difficult profession to speculate a specialization on, and I can't
Well,
think
I
of
was
it.
I was just thinking. You mentioned it. Warrior might have a specialization that focuses on the ranged weapons because there's not a lot of trait support for rifle and longbow.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
I think-
since warriors have so many weapons, just going more focused onto at least something that doesn't have a lot of support would be at least one of the options.
I think we may have just blown Deo's segue into Revenant. Am I correct in that theory,
Yeah.
Deo?
Just like that.
What was that?
He was trying to segue into the Revenant profession.
And I
and
totally ruined it. I did.
steamrolled past him.
Well, it's the Reverend. They have announced for the expansion a third heavy armor class. So now we're all even. Every weight class is even, and it seems magic based. As I think Colin Johansson referred to it as, it wields the power of the mist to channel the characteristics of legendary figures and whatnot through weapons and also their skills. What do you guys think about this?
Well, the first discussion we had was, what is it? You know, because we were trying to go, well, is it a writ or is it I can't remember what the other one was. Oh God,
Dervish. You were
perfect. We're going back and forth between writ and dervish, and what we basically came up with is it's actually a combination of both. They took writ together with dervish, came up with this idea that you'd be able to basically use spirit magic from the mist in such a way as to be channeling it in like you were as a dervish from the gods. So that's kind of, you know, once we went to there, I kind of understood the idea behind it a little bit better. I think we're all a little on the fence about the lore-based reason for its existence.
Well, I mean, Chad is bringing this up, and the way he did explain it, yes, it depends on what legend you pick. Though, remember, we do have like two systems. Like, the engineer has kits where when you did it, it switched out your bar, which that's kind of how they were explaining. But Elementalist, what if you have the attunements? What if you unlock these as you go along, or maybe you can now slot them into that profession, and you can just switch between it, and it relies on the weapon you're holding. And that's one thing that we've been jumping back and forth with.
Yeah, and
How is it going to be?
What are we going to do? We don't know. They're not giving us information, but we can see kind of the idea they had. Now, we were arguing about, well, would it be, like you said, would it be a bundle where your hand would be tied up like it would be with a ritualist? And my whole thing was, it doesn't have to be, because if you're channeling a particular legendary figure, you just basically embody that figure, and you would have their skill bar related to whatever they do. Again, how that affects the weapons, I don't know. You know, could it just be affecting the right-hand side of the skill table or not? That was, you know, again, we got to wait and see on some of this stuff.
I do think they'll avoid going the bundle route from Guild Wars 1 because as of right now, there are very few instances where you pick up a bundle item and it completely removes your 1 through 5 skill bar. Generally speaking, it's when you're carrying something important, like, what is it, the Skritt guild puzzle in Brisbane, where you're carrying those power cores to the end of the maze. That removes your skill bar. But that's, you know, the mechanic of the maze is you have to avoid getting hit so you don't drop the power core and go on from there. But for actual combat, removing your skills in lieu of doing something else, that I'm kind of against. And I was thinking, you were talking about it, I'm thinking like maybe a possibility of like your F1 through 4 are quote unquote lesser spirits, similar, that would function similar to an elementalist attunement, where it changes your 1 through 5 weapon skills, and then your utility skills are greater spirits that actually give you a full-on kit change, like an engineer kit. But the only thing is, that's basically taking the engineer and the elementalist and kind of smashing them together and not really changing too much of the mechanics of both. So until we hear more about this, it's just one of those up in the air kind of things.
Though, I mean, I do like that idea because it does, like, when they were describing it, they did say they use the mists to, enchant their weapons. Then that's why I think initially I was like, oh, great, the ritualist. Okay, we get, like... But then when Roy was talking about it and saying, it's more like the dervish in that sense, and I started to realize that, and I was like, yeah, what if it is both of them, where maybe these greater spirits are more support and maybe have like a bigger one damage thing, whereas your ones that you're swapping through are going to alternate your weapons abilities based on the lesser ones that you have unlocked or picked, depending on if they're giving you a finite or, an assortment of them. I definitely think it'd be a tall order because it's going to be just like doing the Elementalist where, would you be expecting a lot of weapons on this character since the Elementalist got so few, but it changed with all the elements?
Yeah, it's how many heroes you're going to have to be able to channel, and how quickly that happens. If they put it on a 1 through 4 bar, F1 through 4, that makes a lot of sense. You can channel, I can't think of all the heroes, but you could channel Shiro, you could channel, or they could make it where you have to choose out of a list of 4 and put it on your F1 through F4. Mm-hmm. See, that would be really interesting because now you're able to build things. So you could say, well, I know I'm going into this fight. I really need some fire. I need some, I need some of this. I need some of that, and you can pick and choose. And then have an F4. So, yeah, that would really be kind of an interesting way to go with it.
And, I mean, I know we have one of the screenshots where it definitely looks like he's channeling, and, we went back and forth a little bit on it, but it definitely looks like it's glint. Like, I was struggling a little bit saying the silhouette kind of looked like Jormag, but when I saw the wings, I was more definite that, like, Jormag usually has, like, with the Claw Jormag, at least that's how I'm basing it off of, has like the more sharded wings, whereas these ones you could definitely see the webbing. But it's definitely interesting. I mean, what do you guys think? If this is, do you think that's like the elite, like the big daddy, or is that just one of the?
That actually brings me to a point I have about these is just because this is the basis for this profession, channeling the kind of spirit, if you will. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, of these legends of Tyria's history. Different skills regarding these legends can function different ways. One skill that channels, let's say an example he gave was Malix. What if the Malix channel is an elite skill? That means you completely shapeshift into Malix the Unyielding, this giant gorilla-like Marganite, and just wreck face. However, what if another channel is, a bit of a lesser legend of Tyria? I don't know, maybe Saul D'Alessio, for example. And that's simply just like a skill effect. Like, it doesn't transform you or anything. That's just a skill effect, and that's just a utility skill or maybe a weapon skill. That would enable them to give you a huge variety of legends you could channel without having them all be, like, doing the same thing, like shapeshifting you. They could just leave the shapeshifting to the elites and maybe just give skill effects to the lesser ones. They can have different degrees of this channeling. If I had to guess, I'd say that's probably how this profession is going to work. We're also very vague about how this profession is going to work outside of this channeling, because we all know that each profession has its own little thing that it does. But outside of that, they also have basic functions with weapons and weapon skills and attacks. Yeah. We're very gray in this area with this profession right now. We see it wielding weapons in the trailer, but we don't know how the weapon skills are going to function outside of the realm of this class's specialization. And it's like Jim said, we really just don't have enough information on this profession yet.
We also can't even assume what the ritualist can do based on Ritlock, because it has been bountifully shown to us that storyline NPCs can do what they need to. So yeah. I would hope that one-handed sword is going to end up being a weapon, but it could very well not be. Yeah. So even then, and we talked about it a little bit before, is that the lore behind it is I mean, we have no idea what happened to Ritlock while he was in the mist. Obviously, that's going to be a big deal. What with the trailer of him walking through, it looked like it was the southwestern part of Edge of the Mists when the vines were kind of following him. What's the name of that section, Aaron? The desert bit in Edge of the Mist? No, in Edge of the Mist.
Oh, Badlands. Yeah.
Yeah, in the Badlands, I mean, when he was walking through that, it kind of looked like a bit out of the Badlands when all those vines were chasing him, or like kind of following after him. Then he slashed through the vines, the big door, like right before that bit. So maybe he could have been in the mist for I don't know how long. I mean, I was talking about this before the show. I don't know how time works in the mists. So what's been a couple months for us after he fell through that hole could have been years for him, and he's been sustained by whatever magic he ran into.
Yeah, and there's very little info on the workings of the time-space continuum through the mists, so we have no idea about that. It's a good theory that could have happened differently for Ritlock wherever he was than it is for us here. What it kind of brings me into another question I have about this profession is, like, why are we, the player characters, all of a sudden able to create characters of this profession? Are they going to make the character creation process for this profession specifically way different than any of the other professions? I think that would be interesting to see. Are we going to start over in the Maguma? Like, is the kind of introductory part we play just after character creation, if you create a character as a Revenant, is that going to be a completely different opening event than, the traditional racial event that you'd play? I think it would have to be, because this profession was brought to light through lore, so there has to be a lore basis in the profession's progression.
Or a serious overhaul of the starting content for everybody.
Which I'm all for. I'm all for that.
Yeah, same here. I would totally think that would be awesome. The only thing I can think of to really be similar would be the Death Knights from World of Warcraft, who have a completely separate starting plot from everyone else in the game. Well,
I mean, we definitely see in the video that they're definitively using what looks like the sword, what looks like a staff, or if they introduce a polearm. But what about that sword? If they can't, we know there's something about that sword for people that have played. It is Rourke's sword. This guy's wielding spirits.
Yeah.
This is going to be something very interesting, I think, in the future. But like I said, I think we definitely need to stick to it, and I think we're definitely going to be exploring that later in the coming weeks, as long as they keep giving us more information.
That's actually one of the things I worry about, is that they're going to hold out on Revenant for a while.
Yeah.
Just string us along with it.
How do you guys feel? Are you going to roll one day one, give it a little time?
Oh yeah, I'll roll one day one.
I might
I'll probably do a Sylvari Revenant.
The first thing I'm hoping is they're going to give us a free character slot with the expansion.
I got two ready. I don't care. They better. You're right. Roy makes a good point. They better. Yeah.
Well, why?
Because if we're paying for a box, they better give us character slots for the.
So well, but I mean, when you bought the game, you got 8 character slots with the account.
You got 5.
Yeah, one for each race.
5.
I know.
This isn't a race.
Wow.
I know. It's a new profession, though. People are going to want to play it buying the game.
Yes, I agree, but
the only thing I'm thinking is they have precedent with Guild Wars 1, is that the new campaigns with Guild Wars 1 had, 2 character slots per? I know there were new professions in that one, but that's,
they had 4 character slots per.
4 per? I thought it was just 4 for prophecy.
If you bought them separately.
Oh, okay.
If you attach it to your original account, I think you only got 1 or 2. I think maybe 2.
Guild Wars 1, you were 2 slots shy.
Yeah, you had 6 slots when you bought the first game, I think.
And then
you get 2. Yep.
And then you got 2 for every update. So somewhere along the way, to get one of everything, you had to buy 2 slots.
Well,
I'd like to see like I said, I'm not demanding them do it. I don't think it's a necessary item. I just would like to see it, because that's how they basically did it in Guild Wars 1.
And I would agree, because it would feel a little scummy if they're like, "Hey, look at this new profession. Oh yeah, by the way, buy a character slot."
Yeah, I'd like them. I mean, I don't think one character slot is too much to ask if you're spending $30-$40 on a box. And by the way, it better not be a $60 box. That's a sin.
Depends on what comes with it. Like, that might be a collector's edition, but...
Oh, I'm expecting $60.
It also depends on how much content is there. From what he said, if it's just in the Maguma jungle, I don't think that warrants a full price box.
I'm expecting a full price box. That's just me.
I'll buy it, but I don't think it's warranted.
I mean, wait. Now let's talk about the thing that got the probably biggest reaction, I feel, was the legendaries. And
Biggest reaction, really?
well, I think a lot of people were really waiting for this. Okay, maybe not the biggest, but
I know Roy
I think
was
maybe
waiting
the... Yeah, but, they gave us the announcement of new legendaries, which, of course, brings new precursors, and everybody knows they love those precursors and how to get them.
But wait, there's more.
Well, but what did they do? They gave us basically, through the mastery system, supposedly, with collecting all that stuff, a way to go on a grand journey and receive, at the end, like basically a scavenger hunt. You will be rewarded with a precursor. I guess you get to pick it and all that stuff. So you start your path towards the legendary. How do you guys feel with the precursor scavenger hunt that they finally put in?
Two
I hope
thumbs
they're
up.
still tradable.
That'll be that'll be one part. But my thing is, I've never liked the RNG part of that, and the more I thought about it and the more I came to understand RNG, I really started hating it. And it's probably one of the reasons why I'm not really playing as much as I have been in the past, because I've just gotten to the point with it where I don't feel rewarded by RNG, and a lot of the reward basis in this game and any other MMO out there is RNG.
Significantly less in this game, I might add, than most other games, though.
The precursor bit is probably the biggest, and I'll agree that that's problematic. But I'm also going to agree with Aaron that I kind of hope they make them not tradable.
No, I said I want them to be.
Oh, you
tradable.
want them to be tradable?
Yes, I want them to remain tradable.
Oh, okay, I misheard you then.
Because he wants to get another legendary cheaper. I know what he wants.
Well, I'm actually wondering what this is going to do to the cost of legendaries on the trading, the precursors.
It's going to mediate them. It's going to mediate the cost, which is going to be
It depends
fantastic.
on how much stuff you've got to collect. And I've said this before. I don't care. If they only want you to get one precursor every 3 years, which is about what the drop rate looks to be, except there's people who've broken it, on both sides, but it looks to be somewhere between 1.5 years and 3 years is what they expected the drop rate to be for the average player. My personal thing is, if they want me to collect 500,000 of something, and it takes 7 of those to do that, I'd much rather do that knowing that I've got 497,000 more I got to get than maybe getting a random drop. It's a goal. It's something that's physical that I can go after, and I'm rewarded in the end for my effort.
And Chad's definitely saying, is a little against Aaron here, is the RNG precursors, yes, should be tradable. But the scavenger hunt versions, which are a guarantee if you complete it, should be account bound.
Okay, I'll give you that. If they keep precursors as drops, then yeah, you can make the scavenger hunt ones account bound as long as they're still available.
I would imagine they would, because it does raise a question that I was having with the whole not specialization, mastery point system. If it's account bound, and someone said in chat, are there different collections per precursor? Because that would solve that issue. Because if it's account bound, if you do it one time, is it a one-time go and you get the pick, or is it?
It can't be a one-time go. People need to be able to get as many as people need to be able to do this to get as many as they want. What if you want to make 5 of that legendary? You should be able to do that.
Okay, if they go that route, then I would have to say it has to be account bound, because I was about to just say, well, then they're going to sell it, and.
Well, my thing is,
if it's account bound, that's.
What's wrong with farming precursors to sell them? It's a valid trading tactic.
My thing comes in, and it's a time thing. As long as they balance the time to get it to the RNG, there shouldn't be any problem, because you're going to make as many you're going to make as many precursors as possible over the same amount of time that you would the RNG.
See, time and effort are two very different things, though. They need to balance the effort. I don't want to see time gating in a game ever. Time gating for no other reason than just because is about the worst mechanic you can put in a game.
This isn't time gating as much as it is you can only gather so much stuff at a given rate. So if they can know what the time to gather 1,000 items of this thing is, then
That's
they
fine.
have to balance it against the RNG.
Yeah, the only thing I remember that's really, truly time-gated is the Ascended base material crafting.
Ascended base materials, if you want to craft exotic celestial material, you're screwed. If you want to make Madri 2, you're screwed with time gating. You could have everything you need to make celestial exotic gear, a full set, and it's still going to take you 2 months because of freaking time gating. Trust me, I did it. It's awful.
I remember when you finished that, too. You,
I rejoiced because it was an arduous experience that did not need to be that arduous.
But I mean, are you definitely, like chat's saying, it'll be account bound. Like the market will just shatter if you can just farm these things.
Why? It's like Roy said, if the effort's there, they'll still be expensive.
As long as the effort is tied to the expense, and it's no different than the RNG, it doesn't matter. The prices will remain the same.
It's the same reason that Infinite Light still costs 1,000 gold, even though you can make as many of those as you want. It's because it's freaking hard to get. As long as they balance this effort-wise, making tradable won't be an issue.
Well, we were talking about it earlier that a lot of stuff that happened in Season 2 of The Living Story is possibly a precursor to things that will happen in Heart of Thorns. We talked about, the vertical travel and dry top being, something they were messing around with for Maguma, but what if the crafting process for Madri is similar to what they wanted us to do for the precursor hunt, like gathering the special items that you threw into the Mystic Forge? Because I'm going to assume that your end result is you're gathering items for this collection, and then you get stuff and you toss it into the Mystic Forge and you get back your precursor.
As long as there's no pointless time gating, that's fine.
I'm sorry.
That's the worst thing. It's the worst thing you can do.
Crafting that plant food, I totally agree. The one that you craft with Huntsman, I have enough to make 120 of them in my storage. But no, just one every 24 hours. I will agree that is completely annoying.
For no other reason than because we said so.
And chat's now questioning it, but I think in the end we don't truly know is... Will the new legendaries be the only ones you can, or the precursors be the only ones you can craft? They didn't, differentiate between the two. They kind of just said we're putting in the, precursor scavenger hunt type thing. I mean, would you guys want them to only make it the new legendaries?
No, I'd like to see them added in for all the precursors. If you're gonna do the thing, do it right.
As long as they keep it balanced, it doesn't matter. If it's unbalanced, then they have to make it account bound. That's my takeaway from this.
Because if they didn't add it in for the old legendaries, that's the entire point why people wanted this is for the old legendaries. So now they're adding more legendaries, a new system to support these legendaries, and then wait, you can't have the old ones. It seems unnecessary to me.
And I want chat to respond, so while we're talking, I'm going to definitely take a chat. With the new legendaries, do you want more goofy ones, like, was it Quip, the Dreamer?
Moot.
Yes, Tavik, the Moot is goofy.
Like the ones that are, and granted, you look at it like, yes, the Greatsword is a blade of sky. So, yes, that's goofy, but it's
not goofy, it's awesome.
awesome.
Yeah, it's not goofy.
You have a blade of the sky. It's a little goofy, but
to be honest, I like the quirkiness of some of them. Would I go through the effort and heartache to get a quip? I don't think so. But there's a lot of people that have it. There's a lot of people who put the effort in. It's got to be fun at some level. I love it when somebody has it and we're playing and I hear it or I see it. It makes me giggle. So I don't care if they want to make some of them silly, or if they want to make the newer ones sillier than the older ones, whatever. Everybody's going to go for what resonates with them. So I don't really care for the short bow, but there's 7 people we play with on a daily basis. 2 of them already got it. 3 or 4 more have already trying to get it, and I don't hold that back against them. I think it's a cool looking thing watching it fire. Seeing the ponies go out. That was all right. Not for me, but
I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I know my statement that I would like them to remain tradable is unpopular, but it's more of a personal thing in that I'm a person who is willing to put in the work if the work is, like, this is a game. I'm playing this game for fun. So if the effort to get this legendary and the scavenger hunt consists of fun, interesting gameplay, I'm all for it. But if I see that scavenger hunt and I'm like, I don't really want to do that, I want to be able to gather the gold together and buy the precursor, because I think that it's an equal amount of effort to gather that gold and buy that precursor. I think
not to mention you said you're looking for fun, and you have fun getting, like, you're doing stuff for fun and get gold because of it, and then you can buy the legendary.
I firmly believe if you want to pay for your precursor or your legendary for that matter in gold, you should be able to, just because the cost is so exorbitant. I think the effort is equal.
Well, I mean, if that's what you want to do is farm up the gold for it, you could probably start a collection in maybe a unified place where there are friendly people to help you, like guildies. And luckily they are, shut up, they are establishing that. And what they're now saying are our guild halls. They have finally come. And it's interesting. They said it's a place where you can build and progress your guild. And as well, a hub for your your players to organize. But what's intriguing most is the whole idea of building and progressing the guild. What do you guys think that could even mean? Are we going to get like guild achievements or
more stuff to spend our merits and influence on?
God, please. We're sitting on, I mean, I know there's some guilds that are sitting on like millions and millions. We're sitting on, I mean, we're a relatively small guild as far as the amount of people that rep, and we're still sitting on 270,000 influence. So we definitely need more things to spend the influence on, more things to spend the merits on.
Play with us.
Yeah, so come out and play with us, guys. Come and plug in a second, but let's finish on guild halls first. Basically, I think we're going to have to upgrade architecture another level. I think they're going to add more levels to upgrading architecture before you can buy the guild hall, and that will get us through, some of this major influence we've been amassing. It should cost something exorbitant. I wouldn't be surprised if it costs like $1 million or $2 million or $3 million influence to get this guild hall. That would be fine, because it would make you really need to work for it. And then I would hope you buy upgrades for it with merits. That's ideally what I'm thinking, because it would give you incentive to do guild missions and whatever new guild activities they add for you to do with these guild halls each week.
Silky sand to build guild halls. Yes, please.
Silky sand. There you go, Zlint. We got you for the silky sand twice now.
They'll have the sandbags in case there's another flood or anything like that.
What I found interesting about the video with the guild halls is if you watched it, it was a time lapse, or it acted like a time lapse, and it went vertically. So what I'm curious is stories on the building itself are going to be, basically height is going to be a sign of status with a guild. The higher you're building, the bigger you're building, the taller you're building, the more status you're going to get.
Well, for that individual guild hall from that bit of the time lapse, at least, because they were showing all those different concept arts, it looked like there are multiple locations to work with. So,
but I'm still saying I think that they're going to wind up. Part of it, based on just on that, was you get your first story is going to cost you this much, your second story is going to cost you this much, your third story is going to cost you this much, and then what happens inside is going to be the interesting part.
Well, as I say, what do you guys want to see in guild halls? Because Guild Wars 1, the guild halls had like merchants and stuff, which I'm worried about because this could pull away and make the world almost, I don't want to say fully feel empty again, but like towns are going to, possibly be less populated.
I can honestly say I want to see in the guild hall an actual representation of the upgrades that we already have. So this would be, we have architecture whatever level, and I want to see some kind of representation of that. If we have, the guild outfitters, like the guild merchants, the ones that, sell stuff for guild commendations, I wouldn't mind seeing those. I totally agree that I don't want to see people being pulled away from the major cities. because I think that if you had access to crafting stations, bank, guild bank, trading post inside the guild hall, people would go to their guild hall, and then we wouldn't see people anywhere aside from Lion's Arch to throw stuff in the Mystic Forge. So
because I'm kind of on the fence about the idea of having merchants in there. Guild Wars 1, we had the merchants in there. Now, most everybody I knew had a guild hall. Most everybody I knew had, was a decent-sized guild, 10, 20, 30 people. I never saw Commandant empty. I never saw Lion's Arch empty.
Well, yeah, but Lion's Arch and Commandant, Spamadon, and Lion's Arch was the trade area for... I don't see Lion's Arch here falling because of the Mystic Forge's specialty. But, people go to Divinity's Region stuff because they like the scenery. You get to pick the scenery here. I'm going to go to the part that I get to see the pretty stuff that I get to pick.
My thing always happened in Guild Wars 1 because of this. I would go up there. I would take care of what I needed to do. It was a quick way to get into my bank. I didn't have to fight with people, but I didn't hang around there. Nobody hung around there. We went back out in the world very quickly because, you want to be with people. Being with your guild is one thing, but you can't do anything in there that's getting you ahead in the game. You're just kind of fighting the inventory god and, all that stuff. But getting back down, getting out of there was you were almost wanting to get out of there faster than you wanted to sit there. And being that everybody's playing this for the social side, it's a nice place to go to be with your really close friends, but if you want to get back out in the world, you're not going to sit there long. So I kind of, having been through it with Guild Wars 1, I can see the concern. I don't know if it's actually valid because of the way people act.
In Guild Wars 1, you actually did have a lot of people who would, they'd never go back, and me included. If I was in a guild with a full guild hall, which I usually was, I wouldn't touch Camadan, LA, unless I needed to go sell stuff. I would just go back to the guild hall, do all my business there. And since we don't have player-to-player trade, which is what made Spamadan in Guild Wars 1 so active, people don't even need to go back to town for that. So due to that, I definitely don't think we'll see banks, merchants, or crafting stations or trading post people in guild halls. What we will see is probably the guild bank, guild commendation trader, guild armor trader, things like that. And one thing I would really love to see, I love playing dress up with my characters. So what I would love to see is pimp my guild hall. I really want to be able to buy upgrades for just the littlest little things, buy paintings for the walls, buy tapestries.
Purely cosmetic stuff.
Yeah. If anyone has ever built a house in Skyrim, give me that for my guild hall. I want Skyrim house building for my guild hall. That's what I want.
And, I was just thinking about it, and I can kind of see where it might not be as big of an effect, because I've seen the music circles of people with the toy musical instruments in front of the statue of Dwayna at Minister's Waypoint. I've seen, random role players all over the place. And to be honest, it might not be as big of an effect since there isn't player trade directly. There's still a lot of social interaction to be had. A lot of the stuff requires you to be out in the world to really do anything. And so I'm stepping back a little bit from my previous statement after thinking about it, that it might not be as bad as it was previously of people just all disappearing into their guild halls, but it still might make a big impact, and I don't know how much that would be good. Now, the second thing, and I was thinking about this, I'm super happy about it because we do a lot of costume brawl events with Gamebreaker Nation's Guild Wars 2 Guild, and it can be a little difficult to hold the events when we love random people showing up and throwing a wrench into the plans and random stuff happening, but then there are other times where we try to do stuff in areas that have hostile mobs, and that is not very conducive to having a costume brawl. So having an instanced area that we can do something with,
especially if you could pop activities there that would fit in the guild hall, that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, definitely. It gives a great environment, like we're saying, for role players, just because they've had people break out of maps so they could get into like the story or the like shell version of the home instance for Divinity's Reach.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this is going to be great for role players and all like just people that do like events like that, like how you guys were saying. You know, the interesting thing about all this is they really. It wasn't in the PvE section. It was at the very end, and they were talking about building and progressing after they talked about World v. World, PvP, and PvE. So, are we going to see like that's why I'm like trying to figure out a system where it's going to track these things. Like, are there going to be achievements like, hey, your guild killed like 1 million people in World v. World. Here's like a giant banner that has like a sticking through like a player character or something, you know, whatever. But are we going to see stuff like that, or is it just going to be like? Is it going to be your own guild hall achievements or something?
A little morbid, Deo.
Sorry, I was trying to think of something World v. World. Okay, you're you're knocking on the door. I don't know.
I would hope that they would have. We were talking. This is something else we were talking about. You know, after the announcement was how much customization is going to be in there. You know, and that's kind of where you're at is, you know, we're going to be able to get a banner to hang for World versus World for X number of kills or X number of keeps taken. And with them going into the idea that you're going to be able to defend stuff, you get a defense banner for, you know, you held off, you know, for 6 hours and nobody ever took it away from you or something. Now, there's a lot of ways they could go with it. Now, are they going to be able to do that? Are you going to be able to put it anywhere? You know, is it going to be like in the Eye of the North where you had 6 banners you could display? Well, once you put the banners up, they always stayed the same. You could never move them to anything else. That's the kind of question I'm kind of curious of as far as how they're going to do it and how fresh and how different each guild hall is going to look for each person within the set architecture that you choose.
I mean, I think we've kind of fleshed out all there is about guild halls. And, I mean, before we move on to, like, World v. World and PvP, you know, Aaron, you did say you wanted as much customization as Skyrim. You know, they have an MMO called Elder Scrolls Online. And guess what? You're in a group that you can easily go there. Our sponsor this week is kind of ourselves, you know, Gamebreaker Nation. So, you know, Gamebreaker Nation is a fantastic cross-gaming guild sponsored by Gamebreaker TV. We have a bunch of awesome in-game guilds. For example, the Elder Scrolls Online, which I just mentioned, Final Fantasy XIV, Guild Wars 2, Minecraft, World of Warcraft, both Horde and Alliance, Star Citizen, plenty more. I know we're like rolling out with like Elite Dangerous, so many other games. We're just keep growing with members like you. So even if you're maybe coming back and you're like, Guild Wars 2 change isn't enough for me, we do have other games. Definitely check us out. You know, we have a bunch of new podcasts coming down the pipeline for a lot of these games. So definitely follow the channel. You know, keep your eye on Gamebreaker Nation. Head on over to the site, sign up if you're interested. As I said, if you sign up to GamebreakerNation.com, you can just simply sign up there. You can join us in the forums without even, you know, jumping into a guild. So you can still, like, you know, test the waters, whatever. Join us in our voice chat server. And, you know, on top of that, another thing, if you are a member of particular guilds, I know for a fact, Guild Wars 2, we are doing a one-off event later tonight. So yes, it has been a jam-packed night for us officers. But our one-off event tonight for Guild Wars 2 is Coup of Duty, and we are doing a Capture the Quaggan, which is basically going to be a capture the flag type thing.
Kill the Quaggan. Kill the Quaggan.
I definitely,
but you know, with Quaggan.
Yeah, definitely sure it's going to be on my channel, simply_Deo. We'll be putting it up on the site. You can see on the front page we have past events and stuff like that from all the guilds. So definitely, like I said, there's different degrees of testing the water here. There's no reason not to just come over and, you know, check out the events, sign up, and start slowly talking to people, and then join, you know, your favorite games with great players. All right, and now since I did the shameless plug, let's get back to Guild Wars 2. And World v. World changes were next up on the docket with Colin Johansson's pearly smile smiling back at us. Basically, a new Borderlands map. How do you guys feel about just them adding a new map in general?
How's that? My question is, I know World versus World enough to know enough, but how are they adding a new map to it? Are they going to use all the Borderlands?
It's a new Borderlands map, so I'm assuming it's going to be, so each server in a matchup has its own Borderlands map, and there's 3 in it, but it's the same copy. So I'm assuming this is going to work the same way, where each server is going to have their own copy of this map. So essentially, we're going to have 2 sets of Borderland maps now instead of 1.
Okay, so they're going to basically
That's my understanding.
They're randomly rotating the same map through for 3 different.
Well, not randomly.
It's 7 maps instead of 4 now. It'll be the 3 regular Borderlands, the 3 new Borderlands, and then the Eternal Battlegrounds in the center. With, Edge of the Mists off
in
their own corner.
Okay, so you're actually adding land to it then.
There will simply be 2 sets of 3 Borderlands maps now.
Yeah. But
That's
honestly,
what I think anyway. I mean, they might add it in as just 1 map like they did with Edge of the Mist. He didn't clarify, but
right.
I think the best way would be a certain set of Borderlands.
They're going to swap out the Borderland map we have now. This is the way I was seeing it. They're either going to swap out the 3 Borderland maps we have now and install these new 3 maps, or they were going to basically rotate between the old map and the new map.
I mean, why not have... I mean, the only problem with having all of them active at once is it really spreads out your forces, so I can definitely see the logic in, swapping them out. But I'd like to see all of them at once, but like I said, that would spread out your forces across your server a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was trying to figure out. Are they going to just, swap out the old map and put a new map in, or are they going to kind of go, okay, you have a random chance every week, or it's on a rotation. This week you have the old maps, next week you have the new maps.
Well, he did mention that holding the keeps provided special bonuses. I think he might have been hinting at
some of the features he did mention were with the Borderlands. Then these are specific maps in World v. World. Like that's what they call each of the maps is a Borderlands. And with these new ones, it's elemental-based keeps. And for example, I think he said first he said Earth, which and the interesting part about it is it incentivizes more defensive strategies, because if you control the areas around it, it gives buffs to, or like actual new mechanics to that main keep. For example, I think he said the Earth one, if you have the surrounding areas, the ground will literally rise up and start attacking. And like I think the Fire one basically opened up a pool of magma so you could kind of teleport your people across the map faster, which seems a little bit like what we dealt with in Edge of the Mists.
Yeah,
Edge some of those. Yeah, go.
Yeah, Edge of the Mist was very much a testing ground for all of these mechanics they have, right down to the keeps giving you bonuses while you hold them. That actually happens in Edge of the Mist. I know in Frost Reach, if you hold the keep, you don't get the frozen debuff on you, whereas if you're in that area and you don't have the keep, you'll have a 20% reduction in movement rate. These bonuses that he is describing for the new keeps are a lot more drastic, which they have to be if they want them to incentivize holding the keeps. They have to be bonuses that give you a serious leg up, because then you'll actually want to defend your objective. Like he said, using the magma vents to traverse the map much more quickly. We see this in the wormholes in Edge of the Mist. It's the same type of deal. You go in, you come out at the other end of the map. It's very handy. With these maps, going back to what Roy was saying about rotation, I think that would be the best way to implement them, is on a rotation. And going even further into that, I'd like to see them mix and match which servers get which maps. Maybe one server gets the OG Borderlands map and another one gets the new Borderlands map. I'd like to see a bit of mix and matching there to kind of mix it up. That'd be cool.
The other thing I was just thinking about this is they were talking about incentivizing defense. Maybe we're going to be seeing an overhaul to how score is calculated, because right now it's what, a 15-minute round, and then at the end,
10 or 15, yeah, I think.
And then at the end of the round,
it tallies it.
Yeah, it tallies it. So the first and foremost thing I could think of is to actually have a points per second, I guess, a score roll up, because that would mean the longer you hold something, the more it actually affects your score. I mean, granted, they would have to drastically reduce the actual value of the current setup, but I mean, otherwise you've just got, okay, let's go flip these things because they've got the commander has that invulnerable, what is it, righteous defense or something or other, that makes the NPC that you need to kill to capture the keep invulnerable. So you've got people going in near the end of the reset, they flip it to their own server, and nothing can be done about it because you can't kill the NPC that you need to. So in order to change it over to like a real-time system would actually immediately prioritize trying to defend locations, because you get points over time, not points every set section of time, I guess is what I'm going for.
And I mean, I think the one worry is they definitely have said that they use the Edge of the Mist as like a testing ground for a lot of this stuff, and you can easily see it with, I think, some of these new features. But Edge of the Mist has kind of been a farming ground.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to affect World v. World, where people are just like, no, we don't care. Like maybe the farmers go in there and go, no, this is better for us. We don't care about the World v. Worlders, and just go to farm. Do you think it could have that effect?
It's not going to happen that way because the score will matter. In Edge of the Mist, the score you score doesn't matter. I mean, you win in Edge of the Mist, you get extra supply for your server, but that ultimately at the end of the day doesn't affect much, so people don't give a crap about the score, so they just go in there and Zerg farm. Since the score is going to affect the WV scores as a whole in these new sets of Borderlands, I seriously doubt people will be farming them like they do Edge of the Mist. I think the gameplay will be much more competitive.
I mean, do you think you're going to actually see people try to, and then hopefully the World v. World is going to be like, no, we're putting, like, no, people gave you.
Yeah.
They're going to
come in there and be like, we want a karma train, but the commanders won't go for it.
I mean, I was just thinking, if somebody comes in there and tries to farm World versus World, it's not going to happen because the players will just kill them. If somebody starts acting up and and they're on the other side, people just take them out. It's not going to be tolerated.
Well, and if they're out there, if they want to run a karma train or whatever, it's really up to the commander at the end of the day where the Zerg goes, because the Zerg will follow the commander, because that's psychology. And commanders that are playing on that map will be playing to advance the score of their server. Ergo, there will not be farming on these maps because the commanders will not say so.
And
what I think is interesting, though, what could, and this is something weird, something that could happen just out of, because I know Guild Wars 2's community decent enough, they would trade off defense. In other words, we'll let you defend it this time, then you let us defend it the next time. And for whatever benefit that would get them, I don't know, rather than fight for it. So, I could see where there would be some cooperative.
You're basically arguing you're saying that win trading is effectively going to be a problem if defense is so important.
It could be. I'm not saying, but everybody works in such we've got a competitive community, but we've also got a really, really good cooperative community. And even in, I've seen it even in World versus World. If you watch the scores, people flip this, and I know the defense wasn't there to make the points worth it, but they would leave and let the next, let the Zerg have it. Again, the points weren't there for the defense, but they could have at least tried to fight for it a little bit, but they're like, nah, you can have it. Get your points, we'll get ours over here, and we'll just keep flipping them around and around. Fastest one that can flip then makes the score.
I think the only time you'll see win trading as a thing people are doing is if one server is raffle stomping two others and the two others decide to team up against the other server. If they want to increase their scores at a rapid rate, they'll win trade to overtake the leading server, which I think is a valid tactic in a 3-server battle system. That's fine with me. If that's what they cooperatively decide to do, that's a valid tactic.
Yeah. The only thing like that's one of the things that I look at is I hope that my thought on the way the score is tallied proves true, because that would certainly help alleviate that, because then, you know, you're not really trading a flip, you're trading, you know, your next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours with that section. Also, if that happens, Havoc squads actually become more pertinent, which, to be honest, is stuff that I'm a lot more interested in World v World, is just going around 4, 5, 6 people and maybe taking camps that are deep in enemy territory using, I don't know, a bunch of thieves stealthing in, or just doing a really good job of hiding from the enemy's Zerg and their scouts, or picking them off and then they don't know which way you went. So any way they can actually make this more warlike, I'm all for, because honestly, the Zerg strategy of let's go here and overwhelm everything because we just have that many more people, it kind of bugs me. Like, honestly, the most fun I ever had in World v World is when it's 2 Zergs fighting, because then it actually feels like a war. Like, that's the only time I feel that it's an actual big climactic battle.
And I agree with your statement that Havoc squads need to have more of a place, but at the same time, there's a quote from Game of Thrones that I like to bring up when people complain about the state of Zerg combat, and it's that 9 out of 10 times in war, the side with more soldiers wins. And that's a accurate like the Zerg combat you see in World v World. That's an accurate assessment of, you know, medieval war. They brought an army and they overwhelmed
through your fellow soldiers.
Yeah, minus the clipping through your fellow servers. But Zerg combat has its place. It definitely needs to be there.
And I mean, it definitely shows how they're looking at it, because I think Colin Johansson even said they want to make it more of a what is it, like almost like a top-down, like, what is it, Warcraft,
like an RTS,
RTS,
yeah, like an RTS.
And that was the whole idea of, you know, you getting these outside objectives strengthens your thing and gives you new strategies, so. I would actually like to see if they had like some kind of commander app or something down the road that was like, here's a top-down view, and you can just be like, you know, switching them around. Like,
World v World monitor app.
Yeah, it's
how things are going.
Truly command from the comfort of your couch with this, you know, app.
One of those app-making people, get on that right now. We need it. But one thing I'd also love to see in these new maps is, coming up to launch, they touted very highly the idea that World v World had something for everyone, and this idea that the mercenary camp system in World v World would assuage your PvE tendencies if you were more of a PvEer. Well, come launch, it turned out that the mercenary system in WW is next to useless. It's a pointless mechanic. They don't do anything. You know, a Zerg can just raffle stomp through your hired mercenaries. What I'd love to see is if they brought that mechanic back in earnest and actually pumped it up to where you could recruit, you know, maybe a legendary foe or a boss of some sort that can do some serious havoc on a Zerg. Something like that. I would love to see them put that PvE mechanic back in and amp it up to where it actually matters on these new maps. That would be awesome.
So instead of like the 5 Skritt you get from the Skritt mercenary camp, you actually get like a real horde of Skritt.
Yeah, with like champions and crap. Yeah, champions and Skritt.
Well, that could make it. If there were champions, you could have loot or bags or World v World loot that comes out of that.
You got to be careful there though, because then it incentivizes just farming letting the enemy hire the mercenaries so you can farm the champs.
Right.
You have to be careful there. I'd rather see highly scaled up elites but some legendaries, just because legendaries are foes that can they can wipe Zergs if they have the right mechanics attached to them. So definitely not too many champions or legendaries, but enough to pose a threat. That would be awesome.
Heck, maybe the Skritt. There's enough Skritt all together that they have the intelligence to like cobble together one of the alpha siege golems. So they're actually all piloting a siege golem at you.
Mm-hmm. That would be great.
That.
And chat's saying making these side mechanics in World of World more valuable, like MOBAs. I mean, definitely, it sounds like that's what they are trying to do with these, like, get the places surrounding your fortress, and it'll make it more powerful.
Yeah, I can
Or even
agree
give you
with that.
or even giving you a movement mechanic where, like the lava one, where it'll teleport you around. So I'm definitely excited. Do you think they're gonna hold off on a World v World season until this, or hopefully give us one more beforehand? Because
Yeah, we'll see. We should see another one coming up here shortly.
Probably right before the launch it'll end.
Well, I mean, we could.
Well,
If we're
yeah, I was
doing
thinking
the 4-week format, we could have 2, 3, 4 seasons.
Right.
before this.
Well, I was thinking like of one of the longer ones like that. That was what, spring last year, and then the fall one of last year was a 4-week one.
Yeah, they've changed it every time. It really depends on if they've decided that they've nailed the format with this last 4-week one or not. They might decide to change up the format again. I hope they will. I like the 4-week format, but I hated the rewards. So, like the concurrent rewards throughout the season, so I think they should amp those up. But yeah, definitely excited for the new World v World map at the end of the day.
And I mean, to kind of take it from World v World to a more intimate note, it's PvP. This is kind of like the last thing they really brought up besides the guild halls, which kind of seemed like it involved all of this. So hopefully we see like that guild hall integration we were talking about earlier through all these. But PvP, new game mode, Stronghold. Basically, what it made it sound like was one team will hold the stronghold while the other team assaults it, which, like, I haven't kept up on my shooters, but I know that used to be a very popular mechanic of just basically an attack defend type thing, and there's like 2 rounds, and the
Like an
fastest
assault
time,
mode, yeah.
fastest time or something between the 2 rounds would win. I mean, a lot of people were hoping for the guild versus guild aspect, where it was very much that, but both at the same time. I mean,
Well, Colin did say that this will have guild versus guild capability. This is
which
basically
actually
PvP.
introduced leaderboards, which I think a lot of PvPers have really been wanting as like even to represent their guild. So
Someone in chat is saying it's actually 2 strongholds. Do we have? I don't remember that being in the announcement, but if that's the case, then yes, that's different than a standard assault mode.
That's what I was thinking with Tavik. I'm with Tavik on that in the chat room. I was thinking more of a guild versus guild Fort Aspenwood, where you had 2 sides and you're each trying to take over the other side, and you're meeting in the middle and trying to delay and make it really complicated to get the other side to where they're going.
Well,
That was
one of the other takes that I was thinking of is it's not so much that this game mode is purely guild v guild. I think that they're enabling you to create what would effectively be guild PvP teams instead of just a group of people being a ranked PvP team. Now it's representing your guild now, and that's totally awesome.
Yeah, and this game mode is based obviously on the GVG mode from Guild Wars 1, where you had the same mechanic. You had to take over the opposing team's keep and kill their guild lord. I mean, Colin did state that this would have GVG integration. This mode specifically would have GVG integration, though. So I'm curious. Like, I don't PvP a lot, but I never PvP actually. I did it like one time, but so I'm not the person that should be talking. But I'd like to see what type of GVG integration they have with this.
To
yeah,
be
and
brutally fair, very few of us actually do a lot of PvP. So
I've been starting to get a little bit better at it. Well, getting better at going in,
truly
not getting
doing
better.
it, yes.
That's a different story. But Chad is saying, and I was rereading it. I do like the idea of gathering these NPCs or whatever to or heroes, but I'm assuming they're going to be NPCs, to help build these defenses. And I mean, I definitely can read into what they're saying. Like, it could be the double-sided guild thing. When I initially heard it, it just made me think of an attack defense type thing strategy. But I mean, if it is truly guild versus guild style like it was, I mean, fantastic. I mean, what do you guys want to actually see from? Do you think they're just going to have this like a one map, or because they only have like one map for what is it, like team deathmatch type thing? Go for it.
I should hope there's a legitimate map rotation for this, just because the whole stronghold versus stronghold thing is. aesthetically that could be make for such awesome maps.
There's a lot that can go on there, yeah.
Yeah.
At least 3. I would hope to see at least 3 maps.
Yeah, 3 maps would be cool. I might even, like you guys know, I abhor PvP, but I might hop in just to check out the map aesthetics.
And the other thing I hope is that the NPCs that you can recruit effectively, much like the mercenaries in World v. World, I hope they're not basically seen as useless. That would be something that, because if you go to like one side of the map to trigger an NPC attack, and then you try to send your attacking forces around to flank in tandem with your NPCs, and they just kind of look at the NPCs, sneeze at them, and they kind of fall over, and then turn around to deal with you perfectly. That just, it needs to be a worthwhile defense.
I think that's one worry, but also with what they're talking about World v. World, hopefully they're already going saying, let's not do what we did in World v. World with the NPCs
Right.
like we were talking about. So I'm hopeful, since they're fixing World v. World, they're not going to just say, let's give them the old system. Like, please don't do that.
Yeah.
See, Aaron doesn't even PvP and he's sighing.
Yeah, that would be... I can just foresee the reaction.
But if we want to start generating viewer questions, we also want to, we're starting to wrap up the show, but we're going to end with viewer questions. Also, questions from Twitter that we've gotten. But before all that, if there's any information you want to keep on tabs with, go to their site that they talked about at the very end. It was heartofthorns.guildwars2.com, and it has a lot of the information that they announced. And, I think everybody's picking apart at every little bit to try and get as much information as possible. Like, it has, I believe, the trailer they showed and the announcement trailer that you saw in-game, and that they kind of used as an advertisement. And they break down each of the different, specializations, class, the new profession, the PvP mode, the World v. World. Definitely check that out. Bookmark or whatever you have to do to keep tabs on it, because I'm assuming they're just going to keep updating that one, and probably notify you on Guild Wars too. But we did have a Twitter question.
Hey, Twitter.
And it reads, which Heart of Thorns feature are you most looking forward to, and why?
That was from Age Night Road, by the way.
Oh, yes.
He's in chat.
So, what Heart of Thorns feature are you most looking forward to?
New areas. I want to go to new places. Like I said, I'm an explorer at heart, so that is definitely at the top of my list. I want to go to the new places in the Maguma jungle and absolutely devour every single bit of content that they contain.
I'm looking forward to the Revenant, actually. One of my favorite characters in one of my top-down games I used to play was a Revenant, and I really, really kind of like to see everybody's take on that kind of a character. So, yeah, I'll probably be rolling one of those as soon as it releases. So,
I am really excited about the specializations. That's something I've been hoping to get for a while now, is just new weapons, and I was hoping that they just, kind of hand them out to everybody in general. Like, you all get, one new weapon type or 2 new weapon types, or even add new weapons to the game, which, who knows, they might still do that. But having the multiples for the hopefully multiple specializations, that's definitely what I'm looking for, because I really do enjoy building characters.
Oh, man. I think originally I was going to say, the lore, part of it, where it's like, oh, you get to know the languages. But as people were going through, I was like, oh, yeah, I want that one too. While I admit afterwards, I was like, it was a very predictable one. I am excited for all the features, especially now that we got to talk it all the way through. But man, the one I'd like the most.
Like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, I know. It's really they really listened to the community, and I think we could tell by the.
He's losing.
What's that?
nothing. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. We could definitely tell by what were they called? These CDIs.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
they definitely listen to the audience, and I think all being said, you know, thank you, ArenaNet. I mean, I think that's it's gonna sound corny, but I think that's the best feature that
What's
they're
your
willing
favorite
to.
Heart of Thorns? Reason? Yes.
Well, no, I think that's the biggest feature is they literally spent the time to put those CDIs for weeks upon weeks, listening to pages upon pages, and they are delivering. Well,
Yeah.
they are showing that they're planning on delivering.
Bring right, yeah.
Let's see how it goes. But I guess if I had to be in the Heart of Thorns, ugh.
There's a question in chat as well.
That's got a really good question, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
What was the one letdown from the presentation?
Well,
I know mine.
yeah.
I don't mind.
Well,
Go for
let's start in the same order we did last time.
2, 3, no race.
It wasn't 90 minutes. That was like a 45-minute presentation, okay?
There's that too.
They
Well,
said
I
it was
think
going
it
to
was-
be 90 minutes. I was like, my mind was blown when they made that announcement. I was like, they have 90 minutes of material? That's insane. 45 minutes later, he walks off the stage and hands it over to Aurora, Peachy, and Bogart. I was like, oh, so they were half your presentation. Okay, that doesn't really count, but okay.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't think it was them going to ever explore the thing for 90 minutes, and
I thought it was. That's what they said. They said this was going
Also,
to be a
they
90-minute panel.
they might only have they have the panel, and they want to do the pre and the post show, and then they've got the
Yeah,
content in the middle. So
panel-
they only have the stage for so long.
the panel was 90 minutes because they had the hall for 90 minutes.
They used it for 45, though.
No, they had the pre-shows, the after-show thing.
If they say 90 minutes, they need to have 90 minutes of material. That's one of the reasons I said I don't think.
Paul Johansson wasn't up there for 90 minutes, and Mike O'Brien, but
I'm gonna go with Roy on the no new race thing. I mean, I would have liked to have one, and much like Aaron said, way back at the beginning of the show, is that it's kind of hard to shoehorn a race in to what's going on right now, and I get that, but I really wish we could have had one because I would totally play a tango. I seriously
at Great Wolf in chat, they did not start late. They started right on time at 8:30. Jennifer Hale walked off the stage, and Mike O'Brien walked on.
Oh, he was watching this. He had a stopwatch.
Yeah,
I promise you.
They were right on time.
Here we go.
Oh, Langdis, we have extra time today, so I mean,
oh yeah,
Langdis has another question.
Wait, no, we have to see if Deo's actually disappointed in something.
Yeah.
actually, I think for me, while I did like that they listened to their audience, I wasn't surprised by anything.
My surprise was they actually went with a profession. That caught me completely flat-footed. I was really expecting to hear what race, and the fact that they went profession and no race, I was like, what?
But I mean, like guild halls, they had a CDI. And like I said, all the features, or most of the features, I wasn't surprised by or blown away by.
Yeah, I'll agree there.
You're
They're
happy
very
about
predictable. Yeah, I love them. But I was like, okay, yeah, that's a given. The guild halls surprised me a little bit because I didn't think they were a high priority, but I'm definitely glad we're seeing those. I've been wanting those.
They had the big CDI on guilds and guild halls, so that was kind of expected.
And you're talking about being surprised by things that they were incredibly vague. So some of the specifics
There's still going to be some
end
specific.
up still surprising us.
And
Also,
in
they
chat,
might throw something in them.
Go ahead.
So
chat Langdis, could the Mersat in the trailer be a part of a dungeon? It really looks like a boss battle room, in my opinion. And can I just say, behind the scenes, I have had someone for the last 90 minutes yelling at me because we did skip this, and I apologize.
We decided to favor the mechanics over the story.
Yeah,
so
because we
skipped
did
Mersat.
want to gush about all this, but we really wanted to keep it mechanics, like what they've... But yeah, if you can see, it
These are
shows...
thought pictures.
Yeah. And it's definitely interesting because I think in the first one it shows 3 Mersat, or what looked like Mersat, or some
Could
form
be.
of Mersat.
Yeah, could be. Not
Somebody, I
confirmed.
can't see too good. Can somebody get a count of the players that are standing there? Is it 8
More
or
than 5. It's
more
more
than
than
five, so
5.
It's 8. Yeah, you're right, Roy. It's 8.
so it's not going to be a dungeon?
Well, I
It
mean,
might be 9. I can't tell if that's 2 people or 1. It might be 9.
but what's interesting is like we'll just call them Mersat for this argument because we don't 100% know. It seems very likely, but
It's not confirmed, so let's not jump
it's-
to conclusions.
yeah, it's different colors. Like
Yeah, their bodies are different than Mersat bodies for sure.
and they represent different colors, which we do know. It says it in the trailer. The Mersat are aliens or allies. Sorry.
The shot where it says new
Yeah,
allies.
we actually have that as well, which definitely intrigues us as well. But in that one, it kind of for me. It kind of harks back to Guild Wars 1, where it was like you had boss mobs that had that like shield of their profession glow, which maybe these are Mersat that are infused with like a warrior essence or a guardian essence, or different profession essences. Yeah, sure.
Or as
Also,
lore goes, it's kind of interesting that the Mersat would be coming back as allies because they were the ones that hung us all out to dry. They were basically like, yeah, we can leave, so we're going to.
Yeah.
So
When we
now
were talking about
the
this,
remaining Mersat would be coming back saying, hey, we screwed up, we're sorry, now we're here to help.
Which
and
is
weren't you guys saying earlier when we were talking about this that there was something said about the initial Mersat in Guild Wars 1 were like some kind of initial force or something? Or was that just speculation?
The Mersat were one of the older races.
Yeah.
So they were here. They were here as long as the Forgotten. Well, the Forgotten here a little longer than them, but they were one of the.
We don't know. They were all here around the time of the last Elder Dragons. We don't know when any of them originated.
And basically, what happened was the Mersat said, "Hey, we figured out a way to avoid the dragons, so we'll see y'all later." And they went and avoided the fight, left everybody else here to deal with it, and kind of disappeared until Saul D'Alessio got hooked up with them and brought them back out.
Yeah, I believe what Jim was referring to was John earlier before the show mentioned that the Mersat we see in Guild Wars Prophecies could have just been like, grunt Mersat, just, your basic Mersat unit, and these could be, with their kind of glowy bodies. Because in the first game, the Mersat actually have very pale skin, kind of like the skin you see on the heads behind the mask of these ones. But these could be like higher level Mersat that are, maybe more magically potent or something like that. I believe that was your theory, right, John?
We were also talking that it just probably was. I keep looking at. I keep coming back to the Alona group, and I know they don't have the same mask, but I just keep coming back to.
Well,
The Margonites.
actually,
right, yeah.
I was starting to have a theory about that. I just didn't know
As was
how.
I. Yeah.
But the Mersat, they had the magic before it was kind of diluted, I guess, and they really didn't give it up, and that's why they went to hide. They basically screwed over the elder races, which were seers, forgotten dwarves.
They aren't limited by the
Jotun.
bloodstone
Oh, no.
like we are.
Yeah, Jotun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what if over time this is the effect that has on having this pure dragon magic that is like a give and take into the world? And if you think about it, what you're referring to, the Margonites, they were followers of Abaddon, but they were humans. But when since they followed him and basically lost, they also got sent to
Torment.
yeah,
Torment.
the realm of torment. And they kind of have that glowy aspect. What if this is just dragon magic unleashed? Just like animals barking, unleashed.
I'd like to think that the glow that if these armor sought, the glow has something to do with their superior magical potency to humans. Like maybe it's some enchantment they've created that allows them to do something. I don't know. Maybe they've perfected their superiority since the first game. That's what I'm assuming if these armors said. That this is an additional kind of breakthrough they've made magically, and that's why
Maybe they're the ones that help us find specializations.
Yeah. Could be.
Is a really far off one. Maybe the Mersat will come back and take over all of our PC Sylvari we'll get to play Mersat.
That would be cool and crazy at the same time.
Well, I mean, and I think this is, we're getting long on time for even us. And like I said, when there's definitely stick around, just because when there's slower news weeks, we're definitely going to be speculating. Like, just us talking here, I've already started generating more and more ideas, and I definitely want to, chime in on it. But, we are running out of time. But I'd like to thank everybody that joined us in the channel that came live. If you are watching the VOD, make sure to join us live Saturdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. We do this every Saturday, or we try our best. Technical difficulties can't get the best of us. But as always, Aaron, where can you be found on the internet?
Okay, so I'm at Guild Wars Monk on Twitter, and I write over at Guild Mag now. Guild Mag's going to be publishing a ton of stuff in the next few weeks due to this recent announcement, so keep an eye out for that. And I also write occasionally at aformermonk.wordpress.com, but mainly writing at Guild Mag.
Roy, where can they find you?
You can find me at Schadenfreude Productions on YouTube. My Twitter handle is at RoyD62. And if you happen to be playing Elite Dangerous and you're in the loose system, come by and see what the Crimson State's doing.
And then blow him up.
Blow me up.
Definitely Kilroy. Yeah, do that.
Hey, isn't Kilroy and Guild Wars? Anyway.
Kilroy Stonekin. Segue.
And Jim, where can they find you?
They can find me at MeltdownMMO on Twitter.
And you can find me at simply_Deo on Twitter. I want to start doing Twitch more. Hopefully I'll have a new system, because if you couldn't tell, I'm kind of rocking some ear muffs that are also headphones so I can listen. Hopefully my stuff will be in next week so I have a better setup. And you can always find us at GameBreakerNation.com. We're not just the Guild Wars 2 guild. As I said before, we have Final Fantasy XIV, Elder Scrolls Online, World of Warcraft, both Horde and Alliance, League of Legends, Star Citizen, Minecraft community. Games just keep growing. As they keep producing, we get people that keep playing them. So definitely head on out, sign on up, and we will see you in the game.
Night all.
Good night, everybody.